everyone, I'm Dana and welcome to Fit and Healthy with Dana O. Today I am going to share a recipe that is absolutely delicious and best of all, it's healthy. It's an old favorite with a healthy twist. It's a buffalo chicken dip and it is just fantastic. It's loaded with protein and not a lot of chemicals and other junk. I am going to start with just baking my chicken. You can, if you're in a hurry, you can do this for rotisserie chicken. It can be super simple and you can whip it out in no time at all. But I am going to take my chicken breasts and I'm going to bake them in the oven. You could choose to put them in your crock pot and just cook them on low for 4 hours and let them cook that way. But I have my chicken breasts all laid out. I'm going to pop them in the oven for 20 minutes on 400, bake them, and then we're going to shred them when they come out. Now this is usually pretty simple for me too, because when I bring things into the house, I try to prep and have it planned and ready to go. So when I bring a big thing of chicken breasts into the house, first thing I do is cut them up and put them in individual bags and then I freeze them. So when I know I'm gonna make something, I can pull them out real quick and I have individual servings ready to go. So we're gonna go ahead, pop this in the oven and then get started. My chicken's still in the oven and that's cooking. While that's cooking, I'm gonna go ahead and make the sauce for this delicious dip. And it's so simple. Okay, I love to use my Ninja blender and I'm gonna use one of the cups that come with it because I think that's the easiest way to do it. We are gonna use, now this is a little different than the ranch dressing that you're probably used to that you put into this chicken dish. This is much healthier and loaded with protein. So I am gonna put 3/4 of a cup of plain Greek yogurt in here, which is just loaded with protein. I love it. And I am kind of brand conscious of what I buy. I try to buy products that are a little bit cleaner. This is the Friendly Farms non-fat Greek yogurt from Aldi. I love that. I'm gonna add a 3/4 a cup of cottage cheese as well. Now, I was at Aldi tonight, so I bought all of Aldi's brands, but I typically would not buy the cottage cheese from there. I love Daisy brand cottage cheese. There's just a few ingredients in it. It's so much healthier and you're not putting the chemicals in your body. Right now, since I only have the one brand, I'm gonna go ahead and use that and add 3/4 of a cup of cottage cheese into this. Then I'm gonna simply add my spices, that's it. So far in this sauce, all I have is protein. That's fantastic. So we are going to start with some garlic powder. And the easiest thing to do before you start cooking is lay out all of your ingredients. So it's so much easier, it saves time, you're not running all over the kitchen. We're gonna do a 1/2 teaspoon of each of these. So we're gonna do a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. We're gonna add 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder. We're gonna use 1/2 teaspoon of dried dill. 1/2 teaspoon of dried parsley, 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I got my salt out right here. And then I need 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. So I will just kind of do that by just look at that, and there's 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. So this is ready to go. That's all it's in it. I might double this sometimes, but then I'm just gonna go ahead and blend it up in my blender so you'll never know that there's cottage cheese in it. It all blends together really nice and makes a fantastic sauce. I just took my chicken out of the oven and I'm gonna show you such an easy way to shred your chicken. I put it all into my mixing bowl and I'm just gonna use my KitchenAid mixer to shred the chicken. It takes no time at all. Of course, if you don't have a mixer, you can still shred this by hand and it'll work just fine. But this just makes it so easy and it's so quick. So I just finished shredding my chicken. You can see it's perfectly shredded. Now all I have to do is add my sauce into here. So I have the mixture that I made earlier. Now I did double this up because I like to have a little more than I originally made. So I doubled this up before I put it in a blender. So I'm gonna add that to the chicken. And then I'm gonna add 3/4 cup of Frank's Red Hot. But again, since I doubled the sauce, I'm gonna double this. So I'm actually gonna add 1.5 cups of the Red Hot sauce. And then we need to add some cheese. So I am going to add 2/3 cup. The recipe calls for 2/3 cup of shredded cheese. And I am gonna go ahead and double that, of course, since I've doubled everything else. I'm gonna add my cheese in. And that's pretty much it. I'm gonna go ahead and mix all of that together. Now, I can either cook this on the stove or I can put it in a crock pot, whatever you want. Both are really simple. I am in a hurry to get this done tonight, so I'll probably just put this in a pot and warm it up on the stove. But if you prepare it ahead of time and you're getting ready for a party or something that evening, you can just go ahead, put it in a crock pot and let it sit in there for about an hour and a half on low. It smells wonderful. I love the smell of the Frank's Red Hot. It's healthy, it's delicious, and it's so simple, and you can see it looks great. Now, this would be the main part. If I was using this for a meal, this would be my main protein in the meal, and I always like to add a veggie. Veggies are so important to me. So what I do is when I bring my veggies home, I always bag them up like this in gallon bags and keep them in the refrigerator. This way I can easily grab something out, add some olive oil, salt, and pepper, and pop it in the oven. I love to roast everything. I roast all of my vegetables. I think it brings out the flavor, and they're just so much better, and they're not soggy. I usually add about a tablespoon of olive oil. I just went ahead and dumped it in the bag. Sometimes I measure, sometimes I don't. I add a little bit of sea salt in and a little bit of pepper into my bag for my roasted broccoli. And then I just go ahead, shake it up right in the bag. I like to keep it really easy and simple. And then I will go ahead and lay this on a tray and bake it in the oven for about, on 400 for about 15 minutes. That's usually what I do broccoli. So then we'll have a great protein and a wonderful vegetable that's roasted and tasty, and it makes for a fantastic meal. So my buffalo chicken dip is cooked and ready. I just put it on the stove and I let the cheese melt for about 10 minutes or so on low. Now I love to go ahead and portion it out in these little silicone cupcake holders because it's exactly a half a cup, and that's a perfect portion of protein. So this is actually a great snack to have a half a cup of the buffalo chicken dip, which is healthy and loaded with protein and not a lot of junk in there at all, actually no junk, and a side of celery. That's my favorite, and this makes it a great snack any time of the day, or it could be at dinner. Now I did decide that we are having this for dinner, so I wanted some broccoli, and I went ahead and roasted my broccoli, and you can see how fantastic the broccoli looks, and it tastes just as good as it looks. Absolutely love roasted vegetables, so I highly recommend that. So I have a nice protein and a vegetable here. Now ideally you may want to throw a carb in with this, a nice healthy complex carb, but right now this is what I am having for dinner. This whole bowl of broccoli isn't mine. I'm going to share it with the family. But this is one serving of the buffalo chicken dip and celery. I hope you make this. Let me know how it turns out, and if you enjoy it, I guarantee you're gonna absolutely love it. What I recommend is if you take it to a party or you're serving it to friends, don't tell them it's a healthy version, because sometimes when people hear that, they just think that it's not going to be good automatically, and they will be surprised. You don't have to say a word. They're going to love it. They're going to ask for the recipe, and then they'll be surprised when they find out that it's good for them too. Enjoy, guys. Make sure to subscribe to my page and like this video. Give me your opinions of what you think of this recipe. It's fantastic. You're going to love it. Thanks. I wanted to give you a couple other tips about this recipe. One is how to store it, and also the other one is about the hot sauce. Because really that's personal preference, and I get a little crazy on the hot sauce on this particular recipe this time around. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Well, my kids noticed it at dinner and they enjoyed it, but it was definitely too hot for them. So I decided to go ahead and just make up some more chicken to add to this, and then I made a batch of the sauce to put on it, but I didn't add any additional hot sauce. So that turned out perfect, and then they were able to enjoy it for lunch, the next day. And the problem is I have a ton of this now. I'm like, what am I gonna do with it, right? Well, this recipe freezes great. And I wanna show you how I freeze this recipe, or how I freeze a lot of things that will stay for later. So let me show you. The one serving of this would be about a half a cup. That's a perfect protein size. So I like to go ahead and store them in individual servings. So I use a snack size bag, and I usually always label what it is, my buffalo chicken, and the month and the date, just so I know how long something's been sitting in my freezer. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add this 1/2 cup serving into the snack bag. And then what I do is I seal the bag halfway or almost all the way across, but I leave a little bit of room for air because I want to flatten this out. If I flatten this, it's going to take up a little, and you can use a rolling pin if you want or whatever you want, but I just want to flatten it out because it's going to take up less space in my freezer that way. Then I'll seal it across, make sure it's all spread out in the bag, and you can see that's one perfect size protein portion. And what I will do is I'll have several of these and I'll lay them out on a pan. And this way they lay flat and then they stack really nice. So I can take them out and I can stack them in like a bin in my freezer or lay them flat, and it doesn't take up much space. And when someone's hungry or they need something quick for lunch or dinner, they can very easily grab one portion size and pop it right in the microwave. So I just thought that was a great tip, and I don't know if you realize that you can store this or that you can freeze pretty much anything you make. So you never want to make too much and then throw it out. Freeze it. That's always my recommendation. So enjoy it and try out this freezer tip.